Welcome, everyone, to Click Moments and Passionate Pursuits The Unfolding, where intuitively guided conversations are followed with feral faith, enthusiasm, and joy, bringing new insights, inspiration, and perspectives along the way. And we're your hosts, Beth Orr
And Bridget Phrase.
Phrase. Is that who you were last time?
It sure was who I was last time. I just
Okay.
reclaimed my maiden name since the last time we recorded.
Okay. And it's interesting because unintentionally, I think it kind of leads into our topic today. And it at least is part of it, right? So today we're going to talk about something that's kind of been on us and has actually been profoundly a game changer. And that is the importance of clarity. Clarity. It sounds boring, right? But if you are in your life right now and you are getting mixed results, if you
Mm,
are getting like everything in the kitchen sink thrown at you because you have something in front of you that you need to make a decision on, if you think you want one thing, but you keep getting something else, then I would really encourage you to pay attention to this episode. Because in those circumstances, and I'm sure so many others that we will start to unveil along the way, or that you may, as you process this, remind us of all the ways that when we get clear in our life, how that changes our experience quickly,
hmm
quickly. We have been searching for about 6 weeks for a house. We have looked at about 45, 50 houses inside of them. That's not the number that we have driven by and ruled out. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is just one of several different ways that we can share how this topic has made a difference. But it wasn't until somebody in our lives pointed out the conflicting ideas that we had with what we wanted. And some ideas, when you say, oh, I could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this. Well, you know what happens in the universe? Oh, it says, oh, you want to do this? 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 It gives you all of it to experience. And if you actually don't want all of it, it would really behoove you to get clear on what you do want, because otherwise, this, and this. That's a whole other experience than getting clear, which may feel cumbersome. Man, is that a different route?
Yeah, I think one of the big issues as you were talking about that I realized was that, we talk about the what and the why. Well, there were solid reasonings and whys behind all these different routes that we were allowing ourselves to go down.
And what she's talking about, for those of you that are new to us, is we talk about how our job in any kind of decision is the what we want and why we want it. And it's the universe's job to do the how and the when.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So there were valid reasons. There were valid reasons why we were saying, well, this area is, and I feel like what we kept coming up against was the good enoughs. This is good enough. This is good enough. This is good enough. This gets us here. This gets us here. This is what we could live with for the time being. And the problem is that when you want to create a life that you're so in love with, you are energized to show up for it every single day, that's not a good enough life. That's an emphatic yes life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to put it, because I think that the good enough is something that actually comes from the lack of clarity. So I say this all the time. I could probably live 100 different lives, and probably 1,000 different lives, and actually be happy. I'm
Yeah.
like one of those people that I'm an optimist. So you can throw me in all these different circumstances and I'll float. I'm okay, right? I'll even find the good in it. And I've been in a lot of distressing situations in my life that I've made lemonade out of lemons, right? I've been able to make it work. And I think what it's unintentionally taught me is that that's what I do is good enough.
Mm,
It's taught me that it I've almost lost, unless we forget that it's a skill to mine for our joy. We forget it's a skill to like mine for what is it that I could do? Like, oh, I actually have a choice here and I could take the easy way, which is good enough. And I'll make it work. But we forget that there's actually a way that we would really enjoy and would light us up and we could every single day be like, oh, oh, I really this suits me. So if it suits me and I'm not just trying it on because it's good enough, but it actually is made for me, that's a different experience.
Yeah.
That's like a alignment and a match. And I think sometimes we're like, you know, it's a 3-2 bedroom. It's a 3-2. It's good enough. Fine. Let's do it. And for some people in their life, that may be fine. But if home matters to somebody and home is a safe place and home is like, depending on what home means to somebody, then it's probably in our best interest to look at all parts of what it means to be a home and not take that lightly, because otherwise you're going to end up enduring something that you don't have to endure. Like when people are like, oh, I just don't like, gosh, the traffic over here. There's so many people. Well, freaking move. You live there. You're literally trying to get people to stop going on your road and switch the traffic pattern when you can move. It's such a thing with us in our society. We try to change everybody else around us so that we can stay still and not have to change. Would you change? Would you change? Would you change? Well, what if we do the mining of what it is that we want?
Well,
So
that's
that's
when
what
we
we
get,
did.
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I mean,
I was
all
just
of these
thinking,
things that we went through.
yeah, that's because we were getting stuck in the how of it. And like guilty, totally guilty. We preach this stuff, but we're literally learning it every single day right alongside everyone.
Yeah.
But I was so stressed over finding a safe place that was good enough for my family that instead of allowing the universe to show us how to get to the joy of home, I was trying to figure out the how. How are we going to make this work? How is it going to happen? How is it going to happen at this by this time? How is it going to? And when we got clear and we just released and said, there's absolutely nothing we can do right at this very moment other than get clarity and then ask the universe, okay, universe, this is our what and our why. This is what lights us up and brings us both joy. You show us how.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And, I think a clue for me is always that I need to get clear is an experience of anxiety
Mhm.
or anything other than like at peace with what's happening. Like even if things don't work out, things aren't always supposed to work out. And I'm
Yeah,
okay with that. That doesn't bother me. It usually feels right when it's not supposed to work out, right? Even if you're disappointed, it's like, but some part of me, can breathe, you know?
yeah,
And and that was the interesting thing in all of this is that there were several times that we would say, let's pull back a little. But the clarity, like to hold it, there's when you get mixed results because you haven't really asked yourself, what do I really want? And
mhm,
when the universe can give us good enough, 1,000 different scenarios of good enough, just as easily as it can give us exactly what we want.
yeah,
So then we start getting into if that's true, and it is, then why wouldn't we get clear on what we want? Because here's
yeah,
the thing, that's when when our mind can get really clear on what we want, but not necessarily how we're going to get it or when we're going to get it, but what we want. And we say, ooh, that.
hmm,
And then we say, ooh, that gives me a lot of energy. Like I get really excited about this, right? And I try it on in my mind and I experience it and I imagine it. And I'm like, ooh, yes, that sounds amazing. And as long as there's not little things like, except for that, or except for that, or except for that. Sometimes there's a, yeah, except for I'd have to work probably 60 hours a week and I'd have to travel away and I don't really want to be without my family. Which is it? Do you want to do the thing or not? Right? Whatever, that's not my scenario, but I'm giving it as an example. Like when you say you want something, but it's in conflict with something else you want, then you have
Mm,
to reconcile it or else it won't fit. It's like some part of us knows that we're something doesn't match. And it's like the unspoken something that stops any of it from coming to us. So we get this mixed message of hodgepodge of options, you know? So what snapped us into our realization about clarity, which by the way, the universe can only give us if we're receptive to it. So we're the kind of people who are receptive to, hey, tell us what we need to know, right?
yeah.
And it was in our reaching out to somebody else. I wanted to make sure I did right by somebody else that was important in all of this and say, hey, here's the update with where we're at. I just want you to know here's what's going on. And when I told them what was going on, they called me and they never call me. They're always texting and they call me. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I answer the phone. And in the midst of their conversation, they're like, can I tell you something? Now, mind you, this is somebody who doesn't come into the metaphysical world like through a natural position, but is doing something that we would say is very non-traditional for this type of epiphany.
Mm.
But as is Asheville, pretty much everybody here has this kind of epiphanies in them, right? Which I love. So they can come from anywhere. And he said something along the lines of, from my experience, when people get mixed results, um, they're not clear on what they want. And the moment that you actually spend time getting clear on what exactly you want, then it's like you're not chasing something. It just kind of rushes towards you, comes towards you. And I was like, of course it does. We always talk about like, think about what you want and have the emotions around it and get really clear and have the belief that you can attract it. Just put that emotion, like just get that sealed in you. And with that clarity, it will come towards you. Just be
Yeah.
responsive and aware when it comes up, when the next action comes up, because it's not going to be this booming, this is it.
Yeah.
It could be just this subtle little something that you're like, I feel like I should do this, and I don't even know how it's linked to this, and you don't even think it is. But when
Yeah.
you take the step, it gives you something that you need, right? So
Right.
this is me reaching out to this guy and saying this thing, and I've just been asking for clarity. What's the next step? I reach out to tell this person something which could be perceived by some as being irrelevant to my request. But when I reached out to him, he calls me and I know to pick up the phone, which anybody who knows me knows I very rarely do. And so I picked up the phone and because when I'm present, I'm present, right?
Yeah.
So I picked up the phone and we end up having this conversation. I get off that phone and that night I spend 4 hours. I spend from 10 o'clock that night to 2 o'clock in the morning doing soul searching about what I really want. And it is 24, not even 24 hours later, and my whole world has changed. It's so clear to me what I want. And I'm willing to do the things that I wasn't willing to do 2 weeks ago because I understand how those are steps to my path. But I couldn't take those steps before because they didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I'm like, of course, those are my steps. Of course, I'm going to get an apartment. Of course, I'm signing with a publisher. I want to publish a book. Get a publisher. I want a house somewhere that doesn't currently have a house that would fit our family's need. Rent. Why would we get into another house that we have to figure out how to make it work and then the timing and everything? Rent.
Yeah. Just to offer some grace around this, for myself, and maybe for you and anyone else who's listening who is like, that sounds scary. Here's what I noticed. You talked about this earlier. The denial is a survival mechanism.
I said this in a different context and a different
Yes, totally
conversation.
different context, but it's
If
relevant.
you're going back to rewind to listen to this comment further, it is not anywhere. It's a different
No,
conversation.
no, but
Proceed.
it's relevant. It's relevant. So you were talking about how denial is a survival mechanism. And here's the thing, the opposite of clarity is obscurity or ambiguity. Obscurity or ambiguity. And when we live in obscurity or we're not clear on things, we can cling to our denial very, very well. And that denial allows us to stay safe when we're feeling anxious. So I don't want people to listen to this and feel like clarity, getting clear can be a little scary because I've talked about and I've learned over the years of the work that I've done on myself that getting clear often means making a decision, and making a decision means cutting off options. So,
Yeah.
as opposed to, I'm in a boat in the middle of this lake, but at least if I'm in a boat, I could sail it, I could row it, I could motor it, I could swim, I could float, I've got options. But I'm stuck in the middle of the lake and I'm not going anywhere, but I have options. But if I throw the oars overboard and I rip up the sail and I throw out the life preservers and all I've got is the motor, then I've committed and I've cut off all my other options. And I'm going somewhere, but I've only got one way to get there now. That's the safety
Mm,
in obscurity. That's the
yeah.
safety in ambiguity,
Yeah.
is options, but we're not going anywhere. So the moment we decide and we cut off the options and we decide that we're going somewhere, that's the moment that can feel really scary, but that's what clarity does. It gets us moving, it gives us momentum and motion puts us so much closer to the thing that it is that we truly desire.
Yeah. Yeah. Just taking that in. Ooh. Yeah. Like that momentum, like you said, it's sometimes because it's so paralyzing to have so many other options. It can be, we cannot realize that, right? I think some people don't even, it's not conscious. You don't even realize that you're in that space. And it's like, I would rather be with that motor and go to the wrong location and be like, well, this island sucks. I don't want to be here, but I've still got the motor and I can go somewhere else. And at least I'm not still seeing the middle of the lake. I'm going places now. The momentum is I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
The momentum is wow, like I went to somewhere and I'm okay. I'm
Mm,
okay. I'm okay. Every time I go somewhere new and I'm okay, it gives me confidence that I'm the kind of person who can go places and I'm okay, right? And so it's like, but here's the other thing. We can't see if an option is good for us or not unless we're really willing to get down to the bigger yeses. Like sometimes, like we were thinking about uh, square footage and yard size and school districts and some of those things, but we weren't getting down to just outright, what do we really want? Like, we could make this work, we could make this
hmm
work, we could make this work, we could make this work. But if we were both independent of each other to say the one thing we actually want, weird that we were willing to say all the things that were good enough. But
Yeah.
we never once thought to say, what's our number one? What's your number one? Right? Now, we did kind of have some of those conversations, but what happens? Fear,
Yeah. I don't know how that could
because there's a
work. So,
timeline.
yeah.
There's a timeline. So there's like how is this going to work? And because if we get down thinking about what we really want, but here's the thing, that's your warning. That was our warning to say, stop. We believe that good enough is good enough. That's not what we're doing anymore. We're not going for mediocre experiences. We're not here just to accept whatever comes our way because we're just tired of, like, why wouldn't we get really excited and say, whoo, we're making a change. We're doing something different. Where do we want to be? What do we want to do? What do we want every single day to look like? And
Yeah.
I feel like there's an important part of this with the clarity, but there's also an important part when you're not clear, and the importance of a lack of clarity. Because what trying on all those different things did was is it gave us the ability to say not this, right? Not a neighborhood that like I used to live in, that nobody likes me being there and I wave at them every day and they don't wave back. Not that neighborhood. I don't want to be in a neighborhood where I'm invisible. That's one of the hardest things to endure, right?
Mhm.
Is invisibility, right? What about the you know, the house that doesn't have a yard and our kids like to run? They want to play outside. They want to do things and explore and be in a safe place. I mean, kind of need that, right? We don't want to give on that. So every single time we were like, nope, 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 nope. So we try on all these things and then we finally get to a point where we're like, okay, 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 we've tried on about 50 of these things. By now, we should be able to go through the exercise of saying what we actually do want. Maybe it's fair we didn't know at the beginning. So this is where I don't want any of us, when we don't know something. Here's the thing: when it's an emphatic yes for us, we choose it.
Mhm.
But sometimes if we don't, it's because we think it's not available to us. And if it's not available to us now, can we see a way that it could be? And if there's that way, I want to keep my options open for that instead of having a placeholder that makes me complacent. It's like your boat with all the options in the middle of the lake. I might stay there too long because it's comfortable. But what if I'm treading water,
Mm.
right? If I'm someplace that I don't necessarily want to be, an intentional good enough, just uncomfortable good enough that it's going to stretch me to really work harder. That's the kind of good enough I want to stick with in the interim when I'm going for something bigger. But if I have actually good enough, then I might become complacent and not go for that big thing because I'm having a good time. Things are good,
Right. Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Good
But what
point.
if I forget what I really want that I know is a better fit for me? What if I have amnesia about that every day? It just gets a little less.
Mm. Yeah.
It's okay. I can go for it and I probably even have a good life. I just said that. I'm willing to have a good enough life. And if I get to the end of my life and there's something that I didn't quite, I fully anticipate there'll be something maybe that I didn't quite do. But I don't know. I don't know that there will be, because when we get clear, we know that, like this guy said, like everything comes towards you. And that's been my experience. And ever since the 24 hours, I've got 5 things lined up that are like, heck did that happen in 12 hours?
Mm.
It's because I chose. And literally the universe is like right there, opening, no resistance. It's like the rest of the time, it's like it kind of little drops come in all these different angles, but it can't quite get to me. And it's like when there's no resistance and it's perfect clarity and it's like, yes, it's almost like my yes is the universe saying yes right back to me, an opening, right?
You opened up this interesting concept of when we're going for something really big, in the interim, choosing something that's an uncomfortable good enough is a good option.
Mm,
I didn't even think about it that way, but seriously, because we don't want to choose something that we're going to get complacent and comfortable with and then forget that emphatic yes in the meantime.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to
that's
think
what
of,
happens.
yeah,
I'll give you
yeah,
an
go ahead.
example.
Yeah.
I moved from my house in Tampa. It was a 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2,600 square foot house. And I was like, you know what? Instead of getting a house, I'm going to get a studio apartment. I'm going to get a 600 and something square foot apartment because that'll make me, it'll be fine. It'll stretch me, funny, stretch me in the wrong, like backwards, right? It will stretch me so that I'm going to be comfortable with a lot less. But I think I could do that for a short period of time. 4 years later, I am still here in this same spot that I thought I would be uncomfortable in. And it feels spacious. But here's the thing, what I'm doing here has been stretched. It's like this space has kept me focused enough to move me beyond and other things that if I'd had a bigger space, I guarantee you those things that were inside me would have
Hmm.
stayed inside me because I had enough external things to distract me.
Yeah.
This so this is another feature of like kind of like a way to be aware that when you have something big to do, sometimes you have to be in a small space so that you can really get inside yourself to bring that out, right?
Hmm.
If that makes sense. But if I were to think about something in the other example, did you have anything come up?
No, no, I was trying to think of what is an example of how I've lived that before, of how I've gotten comfortable in something that really wasn't comfortable and then just stayed there because it was good enough, but comfortable good enough.
I would say several of the jobs that I've had,
Yeah.
um, I knew about years. I knew years before I switched a job
Mm.
that I it was time to leave. And that made it excruciating. There was something inside me that knew that there were other things new that were on the horizon. And every single time I wasn't willing to get clear because I didn't think I had it in me to act on it. Some part of me knew that it was bigger than who I was right then.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't necessarily know back then that I could become the version of me that could be prepared. But because I was always successful at everything I did, then I didn't want to put myself in a position to do something that I wasn't sure that I could be successful in.
There it is.
Jesus Christ, my God, I feel like I just did therapy on myself.
Therapized.
Jesus, I therapized myself.
That,
Jesus,
there you go,
live
because
in front of you.
I had
Holy crap.
I had written down, I was waiting for it, and you'd get there.
She
Shadow
walked me into
callings.
it.
I had
Okay.
shadow callings written down. We've talked about shadow callings before, and that's exactly what you just described. Someone knows, and we know because of our human design that we both have no excuse. We know exactly who we are. That center in our design is defined. So
Yeah,
nobody, no outside force can actually dictate who we are. We know exactly who we are all the time. And we're very centered in that.
yeah.
So we have less of an excuse. But shadow callings are those things in our life that we do because we know we can be successful, but they're not the thing we're meant to do. They're not that big, bold, passionate pursuit. They're not that big, bold, this is my authentic self calling me. Because when we go for those things, that we are literally every fiber of our being is knit to do that thing. If we do that and we fail, that's a failure that feels like it's at the core of who we are. But if we do the thing we don't really care a whole lot about and we fail, it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. Doesn't
Okay,
hurt as
pivot to
bad.
the next thing. It doesn't hurt us because it's not essential to who we are. So it's not until we can admit that we're following shadow callings and really go for the thing that we are meant to do that we can experience like that full aliveness.
Hmm.
You can't be fully alive when you are not living into your life's purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would add, when people hear meant or life's purpose,
Yep.
you're co-creating that. I was
Yeah.
talking earlier in this conversation with you about how I got told in my faith tradition that we had a predefined like what we were here for. So I
Hmm.
was like searching for it, right? I was
Hmm.
searching for it, and it was about finding it. There's even this quote that I have that I think is BS, but I did think it was BS because it says, life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. Well, when you believe that you have a predefined life, you're like, well, that's crap. You're like, it's all about finding yourself. I didn't choose to be this version of me. Yes, you did. You're creating yourself, and it is. I've realized sometimes when I feel ambivalence or uncertain about doing something, but I feel like I should do it, I go, oh, that's another way that society's trying to tell me to intervene in a
Hmm.
way on their behalf, but it's not for me.
Hmm.
And it's another way that I'm buying into I'm here solely for other people and not for myself and other people. And what
Yeah.
I believe is that if it's for others, it will feel for me. And I will want to do it, even if it's challenging and it pushes me beyond. But to your point, we have to be willing to not only do something that we care about and are passionate about and we're scared that we won't succeed at, which, by the way, every single time that we're committed, every single resource that we need will come rushing towards us for whatever it is. Just like when we do the stuff that we don't want to do, it still
Hmm.
shows up for us. And we're
Hmm.
still going to have what we need whenever we orient to whatever it is that we choose to do, right? But I think people sometimes don't want to disappoint other people. We
Hmm.
know that when we move, other people have to move. That when we have an ideal of what is our life, that it means other people have to make tough decisions for themselves. And the reality is that my job is to tell my clarity, and your job is to tell your clarity. And if we're each doing our own like soul search
Hmm.
for what we actually want, then that's how we're going to move forward, like with it rushing towards us. And so looking forward, like moving forward, doesn't even feel like you're moving. This is why you're in flow, because it's almost like things, because it's magnetic, you're like, it doesn't feel like you're moving as opposed to this, you know?
Yeah. We have to show up for ourselves or we aren't showing up for others. That's the problem. We've been conditioned by the society that we live in to constantly give and give and give and give and give and give and give of ourselves until we're sick and tired and burnt out and we've got nothing left to give. That's the reason why I've learned not to like the book The Giving Tree, because it's actually telling a story about giving until you've got nothing left and you're just a stump of who you were. That's not truly giving. What's truly giving? Imagine you were diagnosed with some kind of health condition. And in order for you to be there for your children and future generations, you had to take care of yourself so you could actually be there. You wouldn't say that the right thing to do is to abandon your health and give up on being there for those people. You would say the right thing to do is to throw every single resource at taking care of yourself so that you could be there and provide and show love for a longer period of time. That's what we're talking about when we say it's not selfish to take care of yourself and to speak your truth and to claim who you really are and to go for that. That's
Mhm.
not selfish. Self-love is not selfish. It allows you to give more from a space of overflowing in abundant love and joy. You are a wellspring of abundant love and joy when you take care of yourself and you choose yourself. But you're not when you are tired and you're resentful and you don't love what it is that you're doing or who you are. You just can't be.
So that's when is that clarity is first and foremost something that we have to give permission to ourselves. That
Yeah.
we get to be like that we get to be part of the equation. And in fact, it's like the oxygen mask. You put the oxygen mask on yourself first. So get your own clarity first, and then once you have that clarity, then you're putting others through that lens. But here's the thing, whatever your clarity gives, the universe, God, the divine is right there with you, willing to help you establish whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that clarity is, the universe is going to be right there with you, um, coming alongside you, saying, okay, if this is what you want, like no judgment, literally just like, okay, let's do this. You're defining it, you know, you're getting to say what kind of experience that you want here. And so that clarity in just understanding how you're choosing to respond and and making that decision and being empowered to do that allows for you to have the total experience, you know, over and over. So um it's just been something that I hope has been illuminating to the folks that are listening because, well, first of all, we know that whoever is listening still at this point is supposed to be getting this information. Um, right? I mean, duh, right? But um, it feels important right now for people. There's a lot of, I feel like when I see around me, it's like a parallel process, right? Like when society or when our communities or our families are feeling chaotic, oftentimes it's confusing um, who we are or how we're responding or what we're going to do in all of this. There's this lack of control and just a reminder that we have more control and we have more choices than we give ourselves credit for having. And once we take those like little bitty, like, if it's not this, then what is it? And it's like just getting clear where you can. And if there's something that doesn't make sense, get more information. And if it's something that you're afraid to do, then read about what you do to move forward despite fear, but don't not move. Like, how do I get through this? If I know my yes is on the other side of this, and I am stuck in the middle of the lake and I have too many options and I don't know which direction to move, then get rid of enough options that you've got a choice and make it.
Yeah.
Just go for it because you'll find something in that next place and you never know. Maybe there was a tool that you didn't even know existed at the next island that you're going to. Maybe there's something you needed to know and go through exactly what you were going through to get to that point. There's definitely been periods of my life where I've had years of lack of clarity, and I've loved what's come from them. It's been a time of exploration. But what it did do also is teach me not this, you know?
Beautiful. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
That's
Okay, so
surprising.
for as you before you close this out, really, what are some things that you have going on right now that or what comes up for you? What reflections come up for you on this topic or epiphanies? Share them with others. 100% of the time when you share your insights in the comments, there's somebody else that needs to hear what you have to say, and you're contributing to somebody in an instrumental way.
Yeah, agreed. A special thanks to Asheville artist Melissa Moss for our cover art. You can learn more about her at melissamossart.com. And thanks to Cloud Cult for our podcast intro and outro music from their song, There's So Much Energy in Us. Find out more about them at cloudcult.com. And thank you, friends, for sticking with us and for coming back and joining us and listening. And until next time, we promise it won't be so long. Peace, love, and light.